How are you? Yes, you have probably heard of the early bird special, but now the concept of eating dinner before 5 p.m. is having a major moment on social media. And there's actually some science behind it. A recent randomized trial found that adults who confined all their eating to an 8-hour window kept off several more pounds a full year later compared to people who ate on a normal schedule. Joining us now to break down the research actually says, what the research actually says and what it doesn't is nutritionist Natalie Rizzo. How are you?
I'm good.
This is something we participate in our own house. We eat between 4:30 and 5. Our kids want to kill us, but we keep telling them it's the healthiest way to live. Now, what exactly were the participants doing, and what did they find towards the end of the year?
So they split them up into 4 groups. 3 of the groups were this time-restricted eating, basically an 8-hour window of eating, either early or late, and then the 4th group was just eating regularly. And what they found was that about a year after the study ended, the people who ate earlier, dinner around 5 p.m., had kept weight off more than the other groups.
It's funny because I remember Hugh Jackman had this diet, and we're all like, "You're weird, dude." And now he got ripped, and we're like, "Okay, this makes sense, awesome." And it's also like because the late night eating is usually like, "Oh, I'm gonna have some chips, I'm gonna have some cookies, I'm gonna have some whatever." It's always crap. How much of it is timing, and how much of it is exactly what we're eating?
It's probably both. There's no way to pinpoint it, but generally around 9, 10 o'clock, you're tired, you're reaching for things like you said, chips, cookies. When you restrict your eating, you tend to stay away from those foods, and maybe you eat less because you're skipping snacks.
Right.
So it can be a little bit of both, probably, but there's no way to really know, but that's generally probably what it is.
Let's talk about breakfast. It is, you wake up, you grow up, it's the most important meal of the day. 90% of us don't even eat it half the time, but it is an incredibly vital part of that process is what you're having for breakfast, right?
Absolutely. And I think people, like you said, they skip breakfast. They tend to eat a really carb, sugary breakfast with not a lot of protein that doesn't keep them full. So if you do have a decent breakfast, and I think people eat a smaller breakfast than they should. Sometimes when you have this really maybe a piece of toast. 2 hours later, you're so hungry and you're overeating.
Right.
So if you can kind of load up on breakfast, that'll go into the rest of the day and maybe help you eat healthier.
I think you said the magic word, the P word, protein.
Yes.
Is something that a lot of us neglect. And I think that's something, even with our kids, it's like they got to have something that just fills them up.
Absolutely. I'm saying that to my kids all the time. This morning, telling them to eat some yogurt with their waffles.
Have a handful of nuts if you need to, but like whatever it is.
Exactly.
What is the most common mistake you see when someone tried to kind of compress the eating window into their own?
I think the common mistake is that you say, okay, I have 8 hours to eat. I'm going to eat whatever I want.
Right.
So that's going to be pizza for breakfast, French fries for lunch. It's really still about eating a healthy diet, even though it's within this 8-hour window. So that's really the mistake that people make is, I'll eat whatever I want because I have 8 hours to eat.
Has to be the right kind of food.
Exactly.
For dinner, because again, 4:30 dinners are great, but if you have kids, they're hungry an hour later. I'm hungry an hour later. What are some great foods to eat for dinner that will maintain you for the rest of the night?
So that's kind of the foods I brought here. You want to make sure that, going back again to the protein, right? So we have tofu here. I'm a vegetarian, so I do tofu, edamame, but if you eat meat, obviously chicken, fish, and then also fiber is a huge part of things. We have the black beans, but also having veggies, and this whole wheat spaghetti has some fiber in it. Those 2 nutrients really keep you full, and then a little bit of healthy fat, so things like avocado, nuts, oils, those things together is what's going to keep you full, especially if you're stopping eating at 5 o'clock. You don't want to be hungry at 9 o'clock because then you are reaching for the things that you shouldn't be eating.
Well, you have the edamame here for protein. You have the beans here for protein. Like there's always proteins exist in some capacity.
Yeah, I always say start with the protein and build the meal out from there because that's really, you need protein to keep you full.
Is there anyone who shouldn't try to adjust their eating patterns?
Yeah, I think it works I have 2 toddlers at home, so I eat dinner around 5 o'clock and that works for me. But as kids get older and they're in sports and you're coming home at 7, 8 o'clock, don't skip dinner because you couldn't do it at 5 o'clock. Or if you work out later in the day or you have diabetes and you have to manage your blood sugar, it has to really fit into your lifestyle.
Someone's watching right now, they're like, this sounds great, but I eat at 10 p.m. They want to adjust to this lifestyle. What is the best way to do so?
I think start eating maybe earlier in the day because a lot of times eating at 10 p.m. happens because maybe you didn't eat breakfast and you started eating at noon, and then so maybe if you can shift the hours up a little bit, and then also just think about how this is going to make you feel. Sometimes if you're eating at 10 p.m., you're maybe not sleeping the best, and those 2 things are correlated. So think about that as a way to motivate yourself to maybe eat a little bit earlier.
My mom always said if you eat before bed, you get nightmares.
You do.
Not true, by the way. It just may affect your sleep in different ways. Natalie, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Great stuff. Appreciate it.